Welcome to Geeketeers. I am your hostess, your presenter, Illisia Ely Adams, and I'm here today with Himiko and I mean, it says John there. Do you want me to put Brains with Brawn? I don't know why it says John. I don't know. Anyways, I'm here with Himiko and Brains with Brawn, and we've just watched back to back the first 3 episodes of Wheels of Time. Wheel of Time. The Amazon fantasy epic TV series based on a very long series of books. And John is here as a fan of the books. You've read all of them, haven't you, John?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, and Himiko...
Several times, actually.
Several times. So he's quite the expert in the established franchise, as it were. You're a bit of a nerd. And nerd! It's okay. We love nerds here at Geeketeers. And then there's, on the other hand, we have Himiko, who you'd never even heard of the books. And you've not seen the trailer for the show, nothing like that. So we've thrown her into the deep end. And that's what we're doing. We're having the perspective of the book fan and the newbie. So without further ado, let us begin. No. I want to start with Himiko. Okay, so yes, how do you feel?
Why did it have to end like that?
Why did it have to? Well, it's not ended, is it? Obviously we've got another episode next week to look forward to.
Yeah, but it was so rude. But yeah, there's a lot going on, definitely, and I think a lot of these kind of like fantasy-esque do have a lot happening. Like there's a lot of layers to it as well. But I think they've done it really well. I mean, I'm still learning character names. I'm still learning what is actually going on, but I think I'm getting a gist of it now. They haven't like thrown you in to expect you to know everything, which I like about that. They've kind of explained some of what's going on, and then like you'll learn
little teasers.
Yeah, that you'll learn as you get along what the story is, and I think that was the best call for Amazon to go with.
I liked the fact that during the show we were having little exchanges. We had some people doing the watch party with us who have read the books, and some people like Himiko and myself who haven't read the books, and we were sort of theorising. And then you got the book fans sitting there all smug going, It's like people watching Game of Thrones who have like the Game of Thrones people who've read the books and people who haven't, and the book fans going, I know what's happening and you don't. And that's probably how John feels right now, isn't that right, John?
Yeah, there's going to be, assuming that they get to the end of the whole arc, there's going to be a number of red wedding moments. Where the people where not necessarily deaths, but shock twist moments. Where people who haven't read it are going to go, oh, I didn't see that coming, and we're all going to be like, the first time totally saw that coming.
You've compared this to Game of Thrones when speaking to me on several occasions, saying you feel like the gravitas of it and the widespread appeal of it. You've compared it directly to Game of Thrones in terms of books to TV series.
Only in terms of it's a huge book series that's being adapted for television.
Yeah, they're both fantasies. They're both TV shows. They're both epic book series.
They're both huge long books. It's in terms of narrative, they're nothing alike. They're very different stories. So don't expect a Game of Thrones style series from.
No, this isn't 18, is it? We're not getting graphic nudity and stuff. So
I think they're going to be very careful with the nudity in this because
we got.
The book is a lot more PG
in the first episode.
Yeah. The book is a lot more PG in terms of there is sex, but it's implied, it's not explicit. But there's it's a lot more graphic when it comes to the violence later on.
Okay.
There's some really quite horrific stuff in the last couple of books.
Yikeroonies. It's probably going to be a long time till we get there. So we've heard what Hemi's takeaway, which is where's the rest of it kind of thing. Yeah. She's on the edge of her seat wanting more, which is great. That's a great start to the TV series. What about you, John, as a fan of the books? What's your what's your opinion of it, just briefly?
I think they've done a good job adapting it. It seems that they're going in the right sort of general direction. There's some changes they've made that I'm not sure how I feel about yet, and there's some minor changes that I know I don't like. But overall, I've enjoyed the first 3 episodes, and I'm definitely going to keep watching it. But
we did have you obviously we tried to keep as quiet as possible during the show, but there'd be occasional comments from all 3 of us, and there were a couple of times where you were like, interesting that they've added that, or oh, they didn't include that. You weren't going into too much detail because you didn't want to spoil it for us, but I could tell you were passionate about it.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get used to the whole cliffhanger thing again. That's something that's missing from modern television a bit. But we're going to have to go back to the days of old school Doctor Who, where you'd just have 1 episode a week and it would end on a cliffhanger, and you'd have to know what's going to happen next time.
Of course, we didn't have that with these 3 episodes. They aired 3 episodes at once. But I feel like they should have done that with Star Trek Picard as well. They should have done that with Picard, but never mind. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So we have a question already from one of our viewers from Glasgow, who is a regular here at Geeketeers. Glasgow would like to ask all 3 of us, interestingly enough, what is your general disposition towards bringing books to other media? They're his exact words.
Good question. I think it depends on the book. This is one that people have been trying to bring to. There have been movements towards a Wheel of Time TV show or film for decades now. They've been trying to make it. Various people have been.
When was the book made? The first one.
The first one, I want to say, late 80s.
Okay, so they've been trying to make an adaptation for a couple of decades, and the book's been around for even longer than that. Okay. He's Googling. He is using his Google Foo. Himiko, let's move on to you while he Google Foos.
I'm going to agree with Bronze here and say it does depend on the book. I do agree that some books need to remain books. Stuff like, obviously, Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones did really work well on television. But I think more fantasy stuff definitely does work TV-wise.
Yeah.
So, say if something like a murder mystery on books, I don't think it necessarily works as well because people tend to use their imagination a lot. I'm not saying it's the same for fantasy. It is clearly the same for fantasy. But I think having viewing of the world they're in kind of sets it, and I think everybody is on that same level at that point.
There's also stuff that has a lot of subtext and politics in it. Is often very difficult.
Oh, careful! The internet is very anti-politics and all that right now. Cancel culture.
That's not what I mean by politics. I mean by politics, I mean people standing around in rooms talking rather than doing things.
Yes, there was a lot of talking at episode 2, wasn't there?
So, for example, there's another big adaptation out at the moment called Foundation, which is an adaptation of a very long Isaac Asimov saga. I haven't seen it, but I've heard that it's not a good it's not a very good adaptation. I'm not surprised because I own the Foundation saga as a series of books, and it always struck me as pretty much unfilmable because most of it happens in people's heads. It's all people standing in rooms talking at each other, and then a long way away something happens because of that conversation, and you hear about it third hand. You never see.
Some things are described as unadaptable, though, and then they go ahead and do it. Good Omens, prime example. They cited that as unadaptable, and now look at it; it's one of the most popular productions. It's just it's such a huge success. We got season 2 coming on the way, even though there's no second book. So yes,
true.
Glasgow is here with us, even though he hasn't watched the show. Glasgow, we're going to be discussing spoilers, darling. You should have watched it last night while you had the chance. Because, of course, the US had it a little bit before we did, didn't they? So they were a few hours ahead of us. And Glasgow is in the US. So
not too many spoilers, though. Not too many.
Not too many spoilers. Well, we're going to be talking about the first 3 episodes, but nothing outside of that, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a brief discussion about adapting books then. Okay, I'm going to put you both on the spot here and ask for a rating out of 10. We'll go for a rating out of 10 for the first 3 episodes. As just the first 3 episodes as a whole. What do you reckon? Out of 10.
I am gonna probably go with a 7.5.
7 is good.
Only because for me, like seeing the pure violence is a bit too much.
It was
It's
a bit graphic in places, wasn't
yeah,
it?
Like very graphic stuff. Even though I'm an actor, I know it's not real. I know it's effects, and it's very good effects.
I did see the looks on your faces. I was personally hiding behind the Edgar. I was like this.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, I think I would say the same. 7.5, probably from me.
That's interesting. The same, roughly the same rating coming from both of you. I was expecting a different rating from both of you. I was expecting a lower rating from the book fan, if I'm honest.
Like,
I'm more interested. I think I'm interested in where they go with this next, because there's some things they've changed that will have that they've changed right at the start that have a knock-on effect 3 or 4 books down the line.
Oh, interesting.
Particularly what they've done with Perrin is going to make the
Which one's Perrin?
The blacksmith, the big guy.
The blacksmith guy, okay.
The wolf guy. The wolf guy.
The wolf guy. There we go. See, I can't remember any of the names. I have little pet names for all of them, and you got the wolf guy.
No, it's fine. It's fine to remember him.
There are too many people. I can't keep track of who's who. I can't. I'm sorry.
The wolves are kind of his defining feature.
It looks like, yes. Yeah. Himiko and I, we were having quite a lot of... we were theorising about that a lot during the show, weren't we, Himiko?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. In the books, they seem to have tried to give him a more angst, something more, so a more obvious character conflict to latch onto. Because in the books, it's all very internal. It's basically his internal conflict over whether he's more man or more wolf. It all happens inside his own head, and
we haven't seen very much of the connection with the wolves yet. No. It's very hinted at.
Yeah, there's a character that I really hope that they're going to include, but that we should have already met, but they haven't.
Interesting.
They may have moved it down the line a bit, or they may have just cut him completely.
The thing about adapting for television or film is sometimes you have to change the timeline around a bit.
Well, I really hope that Elias Machera is still in there, because he's one of the coolest characters in the series. But he's another person who has a connection to wolves, and he basically acts as Perrin's mentor.
See, that's kind of a spoiler, but also kind of not, because he should have been introduced by now. So, on one hand, it's not a spoiler, because he should have been introduced by now. And on the other hand, where is he? Maybe he won't even turn up. We don't know.
Yeah. But it looks like they've substituted a lot of that character conflict for this whole thing with Perrin and his wife, because in the books, Perrin's not married.
Okay. So is that whole thing where, spoiler alert, people, in episode 1, where he kills someone by accident? The whole killing someone thing that he did. Did that not happen in the books?
That's entirely new.
Oh! Okay.
The wife does not exist in the books.
No way!
In the books, he's a blacksmith's apprentice.
That is so random. Like, that doesn't... I don't know. Is that necessary? Do they need that?
Maybe they did it to build, like, a background for him.
Well, I think it might be that they're trying to give him some more obvious character development, and something else to get over. But I've been reading some of the comments on some of the Wheel of Time Facebook pages at the same time, and there's a developing fan theory that his wife was actually a dark friend, and when he spun round and killed her by accident, she was actually trying to kill him.
Okay, what's a dark friend?
So the reason that the barmaid was
she's a dark friend.
She's a dark.
So they're the people that are siding with the big bad.
They're siding with the dark one.
Gotcha.
They're on the side of evil, not on the side. It's very, very binary.
If they choose to go in that direction, then him having the wife and killing the wife and everything, then that would have been relevant.
There's a lot of Christian symbolism in this series.
I haven't seen that yet.
So you won't see any crosses, but the whole Dragon's Fang and Flame of Tar Valon thing is the equivalent of the crucifix. in this. In
Well, I mean, it's the same as Narnia is very Christian. They never say it, but it totally is.
Yes. It's an allegory for Christianity. So the light, when they say the light, they mean God. And when they say
when they say dark, they mean the devil.
Yeah.
And hell and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Very light, dark. There's no grey area, is there?
There are some grey areas. We
haven't seen them yet,
but we haven't run into them yet.
There
are a number of grey areas, but you'll know them when you see.
Cross that bridge when we come to them.
Yeah, you won't be coming to them for really
a while.
Three books probably.
Well, we don't know how many books they're covering in this first series. Have they announced that, or have they're just doing it?
They've touched on stuff that happens in the prequel and.
Oh, okay. We're getting prequel stuff as well. Wow. Okay.
They've touched on stuff that happens in the prequel, and they're skipping around within book one. But I think that series one is.
I'm a little bit concerned for Himiko. Now that you've said that, how do you feel about that, Himiko? The idea that they might include stuff from like several different books, including the prequel.
Well,
how do you feel about that?
Like, I didn't realize that was the prequel, so having not read the books maybe helped. But going back to the prequel might definitely explain some things.
The prequel is basically the story of how Lan and Moraine met and became companions.
Okay, is that the witch lady and the dude with the sword?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's how they meet and become companions, and how they get and why they are searching for the Dragon Reborn. It's how they got given this quest.
Okay, cool.
I
think perhaps some flashbacks to that might help develop them as characters. I think in terms of as an outsider, I feel like people like Himiko and myself would do well for that. I think.
The problem is they shouldn't leave it too late. So if they're going to do it, they need to do it within the next 2 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hemi, who is your favourite character so far?
I'm really interested in Wolf Guy, honestly.
Everyone's interested in Wolf Guy. See, I was the same. I am exactly the same. Everyone loves the Wolf Guy.
Yeah.
Early on, everyone loves Perrin. What I'm interested to see is what will happen later on. Because early on, Matt is very whiny and everyone hates him. But he has
which one's that?
The gambler with the beard.
Gotcha.
Right. When he has a moment of several moments of total heroism, but he has a switching moment. He has a moment where he stops being whiny, becomes completely badass, and becomes.
Well, isn't he at the moment? He's just obsessed with getting home to his sisters, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which I completely understand. It's that's his thing. If I had 2 little innocent sisters, I'd want to get back to them as well.
Yeah. He in the early part of the story, he's quite obnoxious, but it turns out there's a reason why, and you can forgive him for it because it's not his fault.
So how do you feel, Hemi, about the fact that BrainsWithBrawn, he spent a lot of time, like so many times during the show, he was like, don't worry, they'll grow on you. He said that like 3, 4, 5 times. Like there were so many characters that you and I were like, ooh, no, we don't like them. And he's like, don't worry, they'll grow on you. How do you feel about that?
I think honestly, it's going to be a natural thing. Like Braun knows like what characters they become to be. Like compared to us, we think at the moment it's like, what the heck did you do that for? But later on, you're going to understand why, and you're going to go, okay, I forgive you for that. And
that is assuming that they stick to the books and make them into likable characters, and that they aren't complete asshats the entire way through.
That's my worry with Matt, because he becomes a lot of people cite Matt as their favourite character. By the end, he becomes one of the coolest characters in the series. But
which one's that? Is that
that's the gambler? Yeah.
The gambler. Okay.
Yeah.
As you said, there was there's the bard guy, the one that did the singing. I'm just going to call him the bard. Who, again, when he came on the screen, like we really liked him at first, and then we were like, oh no, actually we don't, and then we liked him again. It was like it's like a roller coaster.
It was interesting that you called him, that you were like grumpy guy, because he's not meant to be grumpy.
But he looks so grumpy.
He's supposed to be bright and colourful and flamboyant.
Yes, so I feel like they're not the way you were describing him, Braun, was very different from what Himiko and I were getting. I think he seemed so different. Like he seemed grumpy and old and not very likable at all. And here you are saying that you said that he was your favourite character in the books.
He's meant to be old. He's very worldly wise. He's the mentor figure for the.
There's a difference between wise and old, though.
Yeah,
isn't there?
I mean, he's supposed to be in like in his 50s. He's meant to have lived a life, and he becomes the boys' sort of mentor, father figure for a lot of the first book.
Okay.
And teaches them a lot. They basically for the Matt and Rand basically apprentice with him as apprentice gleeman, and for a big chunk of
gleeman?
The journey.
So like bard. Okay.
Well, in this
that's
world,
the in-world term for that kind of thing.
In this world, not a bard, a traveling performer and musician. A bard is specifically somebody who performs at court in this world.
Okay.
And it turns out that Tom used to be a bard and isn't anymore. So which is why.
All right. So he's a different kind. It's along the same lines, but also a different thing.
Yeah, he's but he's like, it turns out he's a really good musician. He's not just a musician. He's what I
hope that, honestly that song. Himiko and I were both saying we want to copy the soundtrack. It's a beautiful soundtrack.
It is.
Incredible soundtrack by a Scotsman, no less. It did sound. I tell you what, it did sound kind of Scottish in places, like some of the instruments that were being used.
There's some bagpipes in there, isn't there?
Exactly,
there was.
Definitely. See, I have Scottish heritage as well. You wouldn't be able to tell from my voice, but it's because I'm so incredibly British. But in terms of my blood. But so it's. The soundtrack was beautiful, and then they had that track there as well that he was singing or whatever. There's a couple of singing moments in there. You had that sort of poem that they were singing while they were on the horses, and I'm wondering if they're going to include any of that stuff in the soundtrack as well. Because I feel like I would love to listen to that stuff again. Just press play and just chill out with it.
Yeah, definitely.
It was nice that they included the story of Manetheren. I was worried that they were going to cut that out.
Was that when they were on the horseback and just talking and talking and talking and talking?
Yeah. In the books, they do that. She makes a bit of a performance of that. She basically stands in the middle of the village square and tells the village about their heritage.
Okay, I got to say that would have been far more interesting. Himiko, what did you think of that? Because I was falling asleep. Not literally, but I did find it incredibly dull. I didn't follow any of it.
I didn't mind it being there, but it felt pushed a bit, like out of place. It's like,
she was just talking, and I didn't understand. Like there were too many names, too many places. I didn't follow any of it.
Yeah, I would have hoped that there was going to be some sort of, prompt for her to talk about it, but she just seemed to just go for it. And I was like, well, who asked you, kind of thing.
I would have liked images to accompany it.
It could
would have been good. I feel like images, some sort of flashback, or maybe just some films or TV shows do sort of cartoons or animations of some sort where it's not a flashback, but they're sort of showing you like a dream sequence kind of thing.
Yeah.
We didn't get any of that. It was just talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when someone talks that long about something that you don't know diddly squat about, you're being thrown into the deep end, and I didn't follow any of it. There was some king doing something, and there was some woman, and seriously, I didn't follow any of it.
Like they make a bit of a bigger deal out of it in the book. In the book,
I'm hoping it's not too relevant, because if it is, I'm screwed.
The story in itself isn't relevant, but the name Manetheren and the fact that the Two Rivers folk are direct descendants and carry.
They did mention river folk a few times. Is that the village in the first sort of half of the first episode?
It's the area. The actual village is called Emond's Field.
Right.
And the king of Manetheren was King Aemon. It's called Emond's Field because the village is built on the site of the battlefield where he died.
Okay.
There's this whole thing about the the spot where Aemon fell. A spring erupted, and that's where and there's still a spring in Emond's Field that flows sweet water. and that's why the wines bring in is where it is, and why it's called what it's called, and why Emond's Field is called Emond's Field. So it all ties back to to the heroism of the last stand of Manetheren.
You're doing this. You're doing exactly the same thing that the show did. Now you're going into names and places, and I can't.
I mean, that was shorter than the.
It was a lot shorter than the show. It was, because I feel like obviously in the book it would have been. It's a lot more long, isn't like it's sort of more spread out, I assume, and you could follow it more. Whereas in the show, it's kind of.
It's told over about 2 pages of text. But...
Okay, maybe not then.
I think the most interesting thing I got from the show is, yes, they're looking for a dragon as such, but they all have what seems to be a unique ability.
Yes, that was an impression that I was getting as well. So obviously they're looking for the dragon, who is who's been reincarnated. The Wheel of Time, I was getting as a reincarnation. When you die, the wheel keeps turning and then you're reborn, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was my takeaway. And this person, the last time we had a dragon was thousands of years ago. And so it's a big deal that the dragon has arrived again, supposedly. And it's one of these 4/5 people.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm only theorizing. I'm not going to say if it's true or not. And Braun, you cannot say if it's true or not.
Yeah, no saying anything, Braun.
But, I think there's going to be one dragon, and there's going to be these group of people who guide or help the dragon, which like the way that characters are acting,
they're all
at the
interconnected.
Moment, lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'm hoping the dragon is a dude. I'll be honest. No, I'll be completely honest, because obviously it seems very female centric. Like the females have all the power in this. That's my takeaway at the moment. It's literally just the opening sequence of the show that threw that straight down is girl power. That women are all powerful and amazing, and men are just sort of there.
Yes and no. You have to bear in mind who's saying it.
Yes, obviously it's the women in power that are saying that, and they're clearly sexist. But I feel like maybe it would be very ironic and cool if it turned out that the dragon was a dude. I would like that.
There are differences within the Aes Sedai as well. You'll find the red ones really don't like men, and the green ones really do.
Gotcha.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
7.
So the red one was the woman in the opening sequence who beat up the dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So she's very sexist, whereas the other lady that's been helping the 4, she's not.
Well, Moraines are blue. There are 7.
Oh, well, okay, so there are different colours.
There are 7 flavors of Aes Sedai.
Wait, there are what? How many colours?
So there's 7 different colours.
7?
Yeah.
Good God.
And they each have their own they're like sort of like political parties within the Aes Sedai. They
Okay.
Their own aims and goals.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Hemi, what do you think of this? What do you think of this?
I kind of like that idea. It's like a tribe. It's like they all have their own ideals and lore.
The idea is that no matter what your personality, you'll find a home in the tower.
Yeah.
So if you're a bookish sort, you'll be a brown, because the browns are archivists and librarians and knowledge seekers.
So yes, they are like different tribes, different political parties, different not ethnicities, but different cultures, maybe.
Different personalities is the best way.
Different personalities. Okay.
So yeah, if you're a nerd, basically.
Okay.
You'll be a brown. If you're
like Harry Potter houses.
Yeah. If you're Ravenclaw, you'll probably be a brown.
Gotcha.
If you're a mediator, if you like, if you like making peace, if you're the peacemaker of your group, you'll be a grey.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be seeing that in the show then, because honestly, Hemi, I don't know about you, but I didn't get the whole different colours thing in the show. We've had 3 episodes, and we've seen 2 different houses so far.
You didn't notice how they're all wearing they're all very clearly wearing different coloured dresses.
I did notice the one the lady that died and then came back. She was in green. And then the lady that did the sexist lady, she was in red.
And so were all of the sisters behind her.
Yes, exactly.
There were
There was
seven of them,
colour
and they
does
were all
seem
wearing,
important in the show.
Right.
It does.
And
Obviously, you've got
then-
those really nasty dudes that were all in white.
And Moraine always wears blue.
Mm.
Yeah. So
it hasn't been discussed, but you can see the colours there. But it's I just figured they were just wearing different colours. Like it didn't occur to me that they were from different cultures or whatever. Like there was a reason why they were wearing different colours.
Yeah, being an actor, I knew there was a reason that they were different colours, but I wasn't.
You got the inside track.
Yeah, I was 100% sure until they briefly mentioned it.
They're a bit more on the nose about it in the series than on the book in the books. In the books, it's very common for sisters to wear an article of clothing that is of the colour of their ajar, and their formal badge of office is a shawl that has the flame has the flame woven into the back in the colour of their, and the fringe is the same colour. So they
So obviously they've taken some liberties with costume design here.
I think they wanted to make it very clear at a glance who was which ajar. So they've got.
I feel like maybe as a newbie to the show, I think we'll appreciate that.
Yeah. I think they wanted no ambiguity when an Aes Sedai is on screen. You need to know at a glance what her allegiance is.
I hope it gets better explained in the next.
Because they haven't explained it at all in the show, have they yet, Himiko?
I imagine that we haven't really touched on the Aes Sedai politics, but I guess we will.
They haven't even mentioned that name. Have they even mentioned that name? Aes Sedai, whatever.
Yeah, they've briefly mentioned it a couple of times, but I don't think they specifically explained what it is.
Exactly. Like we're getting words thrown at us and not really explained.
I think that's for the best, because I don't want to be told everything at the start.
Exactly. You want to sort of figure things out as you go. Well, it's the same as with Lord of the Rings or Narnia or Harry Potter. Anything that has this gravitas to it, you can't. If you're doing a film or TV adaptation, you can't just explain everything all at once, because then it's going to be boring. It's going to be overwhelming. So we'll see if they explain it properly. Hopefully,
I think they will, but they're probably
bit by bit, maybe sort of. And small amounts.
Yeah, you'll probably get a big exposition dump when we actually get to Tar Valon, which is the city they're heading.
Maybe some sort of flashback or something.
Yeah, because they're where they're heading to, the white tower.
The White Tower keeps getting mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a tower that's white, perhaps?
Nah.
Yeah. Well, the city of Tar Valon is the sort of hub of Aes Sedai power in the world. It's where they all this very sororitas group of extremely powerful women live in a literal.
Okay, so the show hasn't explained this, but I feel like you're maybe explaining this to us. So the Aes whatever, they're the witches, the magical ladies. Okay, right. Okay. They're important. They're the witchy ladies. But you've got the white dudes who clearly don't like the witch ladies.
Yes, they really don't.
They really don't. They gotta catch them all. They're like I refer to them as they're like Pokemon trainers. They gotta catch them all. Look, I've got 7 of these cows on my belt. Look, I've got 7 of these bitches. Check it out.
Yeah, they're nominally on the side of good, but they're not very nice people, put it that way.
Popping out to Tesco quickly.
Fair enough.
What was your favourite episode, both of you? One at a time, please. Out of the 3 episodes.
Probably 2.
When did you become a chicken?
I'm not going to announce that on stream.
Hemi chicken! It's a thing now. You cannot deny it.
It's already a thing, so.
So yes, which was your favourite episode? And why?
2, because I think
I was going to say 2 as well.
Yeah, I think that was really interesting, especially when they went into that city that was abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to have known a bit more about it, because basically saying
hopefully we'll go back there and find out more about it, or they might say something more about it or something, because that was damn scary.
That was
edge of your seat stuff, wasn't it? And if you were here with the watch party with us, Himiko and I were both like this, like
Just like...
Whereas John, of course, John is just sitting there casually like, because he knows exactly what's happening and why and who's going to survive and so on. Whereas the two of us are like,
yeah. I like it was more scarier than what happened to the characters in that dream with the bat.
Oh gosh, that made me feel ill. That was that was very graphic. Goodness gracious. Did that happen in the book?
I can't remember if the bats bit happened.
The bat coming out of the mouth and all that. What the heck-a-doodle was that?
I can't remember if the thing with the bats happens, but the dreams of Baalzamon definitely happen. Yeah.
So because they all seem to be sharing dreams.
Dreams of the same person, yeah.
I'm sure that will be explained. Don't spoil it.
Yeah.
Because we haven't figured out how or why they're sharing dreams, and dreams seem to be a very important theme here because we had the barmaid lady. She said, she knew them. She had dreams about them. What's up with that? That's really cool. Hemi, do you have any theories?
I think she may have been someone who used to be like one of these powerful people in tribes, but so obviously they are going to have dreams, aren't they? So she might have become a bad friend and still had that ability to have those dreams and just changed that for the Dark One's purpose, maybe?
I'm honestly disappointed that she got killed so early. I'm hoping that she could be resurrected or something. I may be a little biased, though, because I do love that actress.
Yes.
So there is that. But she was a really cool character. I really liked her. What did you think of the twist? What was the twist like? I saw your face when the twist happened. That was brilliant, your face.
What, me?
Yes, you! I loved watching your reactions. Like, I know what my reactions were like, because I'm experiencing my own reactions, but I loved, during the watch party, looking at your reactions to certain things. And, like, when it was revealed that, when she said, like, oh, I shouldn't have made myself look like her, should I? And we're like, both of us are like, what?
And I was like...
What? Like, we were processing. We could tell we were processing, and then, like, the look on your face and everything... It was really cool. I love when you're doing a watch party, seeing the reactions as they happen. I love that. And you seem to really like that twist. You're like, oh my gosh, she's a baddie!
I think I want to ask Brawns, actually, what surprised you the most? Obviously, reading the books is something's going to be different in the TV series. What surprised you the most?
I think the bit where somebody said right at the beginning of the first episode, where Matt turns to Perrin and says, "You've got a wife now," and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, we said about the fact that the character doesn't have a wife in the book.
Excuse me?
And this is something that they've put into the book. And yes, I remember you very distinctively saying, "Well, that's new." I thought it was a character saying that. I'm like, what's new? What? Who said that? What? It took me a few seconds to realise that it was Braun that had said that, and then I was like, what's new? I wonder what.
I mean, that has that. The fact that Perrins already married has serious knock-on repercussions for
the implications of that are
for future books and future characters. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest surprise. There are a number of other. I mean, yeah, I think that's definitely the biggest biggest surprise.
How many changes have they made, do you think? Like, just off the top of your head, like you clearly weren't counting, but like off the top of your head, have they made that many changes? Or
quite a few. I mean, there's little things like the Aes Sedai rings. On
the what now?
The gold ring that.
Oh, okay. Yep.
The ones that the White Cloak has hanging at his belt, right? They're like a badge of office. In the books, they don't have gems in them.
Okay.
They're just plain gold. They're an Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail.
Ah,
right? Yeah. Because there's a lot of Hindu mythology symbolism.
Yes, that seems relevant.
Yeah, right. Well, in the books, they're just a band of gold. In the series, they've put gemstones in them that match the color of the Ashar, which is going to have an impact later on when people start pretending to be Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
Quiet with the spoilers.
I didn't hear a thing.
You're doing spoilers. You're doing spoilers, Braun. Don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't want to know. If it wasn't in the first 3 episodes, we don't want to know.
You need to consider that they have Braun has admitted they had changed things. So what else might they change?
Yeah,
that is very true. But like he's saying about how this is obviously this change that's been made is going to affect a plot that's happening in the future, telling us about a plot that's happening in the future.
But yeah, overall, it was interesting. I will definitely probably watch this in my own time once the episodes come out.
Well, I'm assuming that we'll be doing this every week.
Are we doing this every week?
We're doing this. We're totally doing this every week.
We could do this every week.
Mm-hmm.
One assumes.
That was the original plan. Anyway.
That was the plan, Hemi. Get with the program, Hemi.
Look! I'm living off 9 hours sleep compared to other days where I'm sleeping like 3. So.
Yep, that sounds like my life. Sleep is for wusses.
I've had so much happen since like the last time we talked about this. So it's just...
She's got a job, folks.
I've got a job. I've got uni to do. I've got other things. It's just, Anyway.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It was.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Wheel of Time. Let's see what else happens. What else have you got up your sleeve?
Yeah.
So we got your favourite was the second episode.
Yes.
Braun, what about you?
Yeah, probably the third. I think we met a lot of new people in the third episode. A lot of new. There were a lot of new information revealed in the third episode.
Mm-hmm.
We met our first Aiel. We met the Tinkers. We had a lot more with the wolves. We had our first dark friend. So there was we very briefly saw Whitebridge, which
we did.
Was at
the end.
At the beginning, but before Matt and Rand go down into the town and try and get a job in the pub, they're standing on the cliff overlooking it, and they look down and you see the bridge and the town beyond, and it's that they don't make any sort of big deal out of it. But in the books, Whitebridge is quite a the fact that it's called Whitebridge is an important thing because the bridge itself is not quite a wonder of the world.
White Bridge, White Tower.
Yeah, the bridge is a piece of old architecture from the previous age. It's it's power wrought. It's made by Aes Sedai. It doesn't. It's one of those. It's one of the last bits left over from a previous era. So it's special in that sense that it's not it's not made by humans. Well, it's made by humans, but it's not made with normal tools.
Right. Okay.
Okay. That's interesting.
Bit of a difference between not made by humans and made with unusual tools.
Unusual tools.
Yeah, that's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the ratings online or whatever. The IMDb ratings are pretty darn good, which is surprising because IMDb can be pretty brutal.
Yeah, they can.
IMDb is a brutal place to go for ratings.
Amazon's rating it at 4 stars, which is pretty good.
Based on reviews.
Is that 4 out of 5?
4 out of 5. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Based on reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Which
the IMDb uses Amazon uses IMDb ratings and sort of converts them. So same principle.
Pretty much, yeah.
But this is based on direct reviews from.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad start considering the first 3 episodes are up. Definitely not bad at all.
Are you glad that they aired them? That they did all 3 at once, Hemi?
Yeah, definitely. Because as I said, explained quite a bit in separate episodes, not all at once in one episode.
Do you feel like if it was just the first episode, you'd have been like, eh?
I'd definitely be I'd be interested, but I'd definitely be very confused of what the heck is all this for, And I think having it all separate within the first 3 episodes was definitely very nice. I didn't have to try and consume it and understand everything in one episode. Did
you appreciate the previously on? We randomly got a previously on at the beginning of the 3rd episode. What was up with that?
They've been
was weird.
They're been a bit spotty about that, haven't they? That was
strange. So we didn't get a previously on for the 2nd episode, but we did for the 3rd.
And there was no credits for the 1st episode.
And there was no credits for the 1st episode. Exactly. We just had the Wheel of Time logo, and that was it.
I think
a little bit inconsistent.
No, I've done media studies, so I could probably answer that. It's probably from a standpoint of they want you to be immersed in the story before you think about the, who made it and stuff. And I could definitely see how that would make sense. But for the previously on the third episode, considering they released all 3 episodes at once, I don't think that was really necessary.
Yeah, that was a bit confusing. I feel like maybe from episode 4 onwards we should have had previously on.
Yeah.
Because they should know that people are generally going to be watching all 3 episodes. Because, yes, that's kind of how they were intended to be watched. So why did we need it previously on? Although they did remind us about the lady from the opening sequence, for instance. So, things like that you may have forgotten because it's been 3 hours, because it's been 2 hours. Not 2 hours.
But yeah, from an intro standpoint, I think they didn't put it in the first episode to not break immersion.
We had someone in the comments who was a fan of the books saying that they found the intro to be quite spoilery. Personally, not for me. What do you think, Hemi? Did you see anything spoilery there?
Like,
no, good.
Some of the patterns maybe might have suggested something, but from you and our standpoint, I don't know if you agree with me. I didn't quite get it. I knew they had a meaning, but
I didn't really see any spoilers there. I feel like maybe as things are revealed, we're going to go, oh,
that's what that means.
Yeah,
but I personally didn't feel like anything was spoiled for me, which is good. No. I was a bit worried when they said that. I was like, oh no. Whereas, John, do you agree with the other viewer there?
I wouldn't say that there were spoilers. I mean, I wonder who the pictures of the 7 women in the in the credits are meant to be.
Colour was again very important. You had a woman that was all in red, for instance. Colour was very important in the intro. There was very distinctive colorations. To certain things, and we're getting the impression that color and dreams are both very important themes in this.
And they're setting out the concept of the cosmology of the world as well, with the
cosmology
whole with the whole loom.
Yes, the loom imagery thing. I noticed that the intro is very loom themed. If you're unaware of what a loom is, just give it a quick Google. But basically, they used to make clothes with looms. You'd put thread down, and then it's got this big wooden thing that you just put it down and scroll it down and do like this, and then that's how they made clothes. It was a much more efficient way of making clothes than hand stitching. And so I did ask John, is that relevant? And he did say yes. So we don't know why it's relevant yet, but it clearly is because it's a big part of the intro.
Yeah.
So the symbolism of the Wheel of Time is the idea is that, or the belief is that it spins out the threads of fate that make up history.
And threads that could then be put in a loom and
well, that's the thing the thing I've always argued.
Okay.
I've always wondered about this because the loom is missing from this picture of cosmology. They say that the Wheel of Time spins out the fates of men, and they say, okay, well, here's the threads, and they get woven into the pattern. And this is something that gets said all the time. It's woven in the pattern.
Hence the loom.
When they say it's woven in the pattern, what they mean is it's already done. You can't do anything about it now.
So it's like
it's fixed. Yeah. It's fixed. The pattern is fate, and when they say it's woven in the pattern, they mean it's done now. You can't change it.
The barmaid that betrayed them, they were. She was talking about how she doesn't feel like the big bad is a bad guy. She was working for him because she thinks that he wants to take the power of the dragon, and she said something about changing everybody's fates, making it so that the Wheel of Time stops turning and people can kind of do their own thing. That was the impression that I was getting from her. That's a very interesting concept. See, that's a bit of a grey area there. If what she's saying is true, don't say, then that, because of course we currently have the concept of good versus evil, light versus dark. But what she's saying is that there's a grey area, that the bad guy, the dark, is not as dark as he seems.
Well, it's the same. It's the same fundamental conflict as you get in Babylon 5 between the Shadows and the Vorlons.
Okay, that means nothing to me.
Okay, it's authoritarian versus libertarian. As one side says the best way.
Well, every bad guy thinks they're a good guy, really. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Even Hitler thought he was doing the right thing.
So
know.
it's one side saying the best way forwards is for everybody to follow the rules and go in the straight line, and the other side says the best way to grow is for everyone to fight with each other, and the strongest will survive.
Well, that's Darwin theory right there.
Well, it's
Darwinism. The strongest survive.
No, Darwinism is the best adapted survive.
True.
Which is not quite the same thing.
It's not necessarily about fighting. It's also about intelligence and so on. Yeah. Okay, we've got another question coming in from Glasgow here. I think this is best explained. I know the answer to this because Braun has explained it to me. So, Braun, if you could explain, please, to the audience. He's asking, are the novels completed, or is there story still to come here?
Oh, yeah.
The story's finished. Robert Jordan started writing them in 1990. Published the first one in 1990. He started writing them sometime before that. And he published 14, 13, 12, 11 books, and then died before he could publish the 12th one, which was meant to be the last
Yay.
one.
Didn't you say he wrote some sort of Bible for the show, for the books?
Yeah. He was diagnosed with I believe a chronic heart disease. When he published the 11th book, and he was like, okay, there's one more book to go. I know that I'm dying of a terrible illness that is going to kill me. Rather than writing the last book, I'm going to go off and write a prequel. And
oh dear!
He published the prequel and the World Companion, and then he started writing the. He started writing the final book, and he died before it could be finished.
Yay!
So his wife, who was also his editor and publicist, hired Brandon Sanderson, who is another prolific fantasy author.
Okay. What else? What else have they done?
The Mistborn trilogy, the Lightbringer series.
I've not heard of them, but they sound nice.
I'm aware of Lightbringer.
They sound cool.
The man's a human printing press. He writes so fast.
There you go. There.
In fact,
I mean, clearly, if he was hired for this, then clearly he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I forget what they're called. The first one is Steelheart.
Point is, he knows what he's doing. So he was hired for the job for a good reason.
So he's hired to take over and write the last book. He looks at Robert Jordan's notes and decides, actually, this isn't one book, this is 3. Breaks it up into 3 more books, and releases books 12, 13, and 14.
Okay, so it is complete. It's just a case of instead of making one final book, it's 3 final books.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's 14 books plus a prequel, where the last, where we've now seen about a quarter of the way through the first book. That's about where we are.
You think the first 3 episodes are sort of a quarter of the book? Do we know how many episodes are in the first series? I'm going to give that a quick Google.
There's 8.
So we're almost halfway through the show.
Yeah.
Or at least the first season of the show.
And we don't know where they're going to end up, but we're guessing that the first series and the first book are more or less analogous.
I mean, you get some series which are designed where each season is a book. But can you imagine if they wanted to do that? Oh my goodness, we'd be carrying on for a decade.
Well, fortunately, there's a big chunk of books in the middle where basically nothing happens, so you can put all of those into one season. I mean, actually, a lot happens. There's a lot of character development, but the plot pulls the drag chute, and basically the world stops for about 4 books. Nothing progresses, and it's a lot of people standing around talking and developing their relationships, but not actually doing anything.
Right.
Okay.
It's known in the fandom as the slog.
Right.
Let's hope they don't drag into that too much with these series.
I'm thinking that you can probably condense that entire run of books into one.
Yeah, hopefully.
One series, one 10-episode series. And if they do that, then they can probably do this in 8 or 9 seasons.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, you make that seem like it's a short. You make that sound like so short, like just 8 or 9 seasons.
I mean, Game of Thrones was 6.
Yeah, it was 6.
Yes, but to be fair, it was supposed to be longer, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, and should have been more, and that was adapting a series that's 5 books and counting.
Yeah, true. True.
This was always going to be a huge endeavour.
It's only a matter of time.
And you thought Game of Thrones cast was large and unwieldy. This thing really does have a cast of thousands, literally. There is a wiki devoted to tracking all of the characters, in
like the timelines and the family trees and stuff like that.
How they all interconnect. There are literally thousands of named characters.
Damn.
And
that's a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, some of them turn up in like book. There are characters that turn up briefly in book 1 or 2, and then disappear for like 6 books, and then have a major part to play in book 8.
Okay. See, that's when you need it previously on.
Yeah, the whole, all those characters that we just met in Emond's Field, in the village at the very beginning. Some of those are going to turn up much, much later on and have a bigger part to play.
Okay, so randomly, I'm going to say this. Okay, so I'm looking at the top 50 fantasy shows on IMDb, right, in terms of rating and popularity, and it's constantly updating. It's updated every day. Stranger Things is number 2. Game of Thrones is number 3. Coming in at, take a guess where it's sitting in the top 50. Wheel of Time.
I'm going to say 5, 6 at the moment.
7.
Yeah,
okay.
Out of the top 50, it's sitting at number 7 in terms of popularity and overall rating. It is sitting at number 7 out of 50. I think that's a pretty darn good debut. Whether it goes up or down remains to be seen.
I'm guessing Game of Thrones was at 1 and has slipped to 3.
Yes, it would have been at 1 probably while it was airing, and then of course we had the debacle with the final episodes.
Yes.
So yes, but that's quite cool. I like that.
It's a pretty good start, yeah, especially with Amazon. I mean, there has been times where Amazon has ruined series, so it's good that they kind of haven't done that with this, from what Brawn's been saying.
This time they've actually thrown real money at it. Whereas when
his Dark Materials, that's the other one I was thinking of. Yes, I was. That's it. His Dark Materials is another fantasy epic series that I watched last year.
The BBC adaptation of that I thought was pretty good.
Yes, it is. It is very good. I haven't read the books. But his Dark Materials is another case of it's very popular fantasy epic series, and they seem to be doing 1 book per season.
Maybe we should do that one next, because I have read the books.
They seem to be doing 1 season per book, but they've also got moments where they incorporate something from book 2 or book 3 into season 1 for the purpose of the TV show, like for whatever reason. Because I was watching it with Douglas, who is a big fan of the book, so he's like, hold on a second, that doesn't happen until book 3, what are they doing? So I'm wondering if they're doing the same with Wheel of Time, because you were saying there are things that haven't come in yet that should have.
Yeah.
Or maybe some things that get introduced before they should be, and so on.
And there's
artistic license, I believe, is the terminology.
There's a number of things that didn't happen early on that they have to introduce at some point in order for the story to work. I mean, in the books, Rand's father is, because they have a lot more space, they have a lot more time to play with in the books.
Yes.
So there's a whole chapter of Rand getting his father to Emond's Field whilst he's wounded, and he's lying on the back of the cart that he's being wheeled in, and he's delirious and he's babbling, and he lets slip the whole story of Rand's parentage and birth, and you find out a lot more. You find out there's a whole chunk of backstory there that we didn't get. Because they skipped that bit,
and maybe they're skipping it entirely. Yeah. Maybe they'll include it at some point. Or it's like
they have to include it at some point.
The farmer in Lord of the Rings. The farmer is a big part of the book. Like it's a huge segment of the Fellowship of the Ring is dedicated to the farmer, and yet he's not in the films at all.
Yeah, they have to include it at some point because it's really relevant to Rand's character.
Okay,
if you leave it out, you basically break Rand's character development. They have to rewrite
unless they've decided to change the character, or they find another way around it, like a flashback or something like that. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean they'd have
time will tell.
But what I'm saying is they'll have to put this chunk of story in somewhere, whether they do it with a flashback or with somebody telling a story, or
so you say they have to, but
it's got to
we'll
go
see.
in
Maybe
there
they don't.
Yeah.
Maybe they do, maybe they've decided to exclude it.
It needs to be explained, I think. But
it's sort of I mean, a large chunk of the book doesn't work without them. So it's a big part of them. It's a big part of the greater narrative.
Yeah.
Because
we shall see.
I can't say more without
spoiling exactly.
Without major spoilers for exactly who Rand is and where he comes from. Let's just. I mean, we had the whole thing. You remember the bit where they're cutting down the dead Aiel and burying him, and they mention the color of his hair.
Yeah, the red hair.
You might have noticed that Rand has the same color hair.
Yes, I did notice that. I was like, hold on a second. They don't seem to like redheads around here. This is not good.
That's quite important. Remember that.
Yes,
Okay.
I was a bit freaked out by that because most of the women in my family have red hair. I clearly have my father's genes. My father's genes clearly won out here because pretty much all the women from my mother's side of the family are. Well, it's the Scottish and Irish heritage in us. We're redheads, so I'm like, please don't kill me. But it's okay because I'm not technically a redhead at the moment, so we're okay. Please don't kill me.
You're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did notice that. I did wonder. It's literally the scene after they were chopping him down, and then you then switch to the other to the scene where he's with the barmaid, and the first thing you notice is he has red hair.
He has red hair. That is important. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing about you having reddish hair is that it's going to give it to the end of the next season probably, and you will have a whole wealth of new cosplay opportunities.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah.
There are a number of red-headed women coming.
My hair is sadly not naturally red enough. It is under the right lighting because it looks brunette right now, doesn't it? But under the right lighting, obviously, John, you've known me a long time. Under the right lighting, it really shows.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's like I am totally brunette.
There are a number of badass redheads coming.
We need more badass redheads.
That I think will get a lot of cosplay attention.
Definitely.
At upcoming conventions.
It was like Brave, wasn't it, when that came out?
Yeah. Yeah. No, Merida is totally an Aiel.
Do it, John. Do it.
you want John to do the red-headed badass bitch cosplay?
I'm not sure I've got the figure for it.
He doesn't have the moves for it.
I don't have the legs for Cadinsaw.
He doesn't have the legs. Why have you shaved your legs?
No, I mean it's the tight-fitting breeches. You know.
Okay, the tight-fitting breeches.
Okay.
Just admit it, John. You're just not man enough.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean,
Time to get some freezer.
I am going to be appearing in a panto this year. Well, next year it's coming.
Do you know what? Aren't you doing a panto as well, Hemi?
I'm doing backstage, but yeah.
Backstage, okay.
I am Space Deliveroo driver. I have 2 lines.
Nice.
Two entire lines!
And everything else I'm
We
doing.
have a star in our midst.
Everything else is backstage. I'm mostly backstage crew, but they needed somebody to read in for this Deliveroo driver who needs to deliver Space Cinderella Odonic bag.
Super important.
And I did it well enough that they were like, "You can just have the part. We'll work it in."
Nice. That's cool. That's cool.
So, anything else you want to chat about? We've been at this for about an hour, so
Yeah, overall, I think it's a good start. It's a good start, definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. I will say one thing that I was disappointed by. The blonde I started the Reddish, the one that we met at the very end.
Yeah.
Her name's Leandrin, and they got her hair completely wrong.
Really? That's so random.
Well,
her hair is wrong. The rest of it, everything is perfect, but her hair. Oh no!
Whenever she turns up in the book, it describes her hair as she's described as having lots of very fine braids.
Okay.
And this is apparently a traditional Tarabana haircut. This is like her cultural hair. And everyone from Tarabon wears their hair like that. So
Okay, hair does seem to actually be surprisingly important in the show. You've got the lady with the braids, or the ladies with the braids. That seems to be like a coming of age kind of thing, some sort of ceremony.
In the Two Rivers, when you wear your hair in a braid, it means you're old enough to get married.
Okay. See, I thought it was a magic thing.
No,
I was getting the impression that you braid your hair and it means you're ready to do magic. I don't know. That was my takeaway. It wasn't explained very well, was it, Hemi?
I kind of thought differently. I thought that means they were part of some circle which they couldn't marry.
See, there you go. See, we're all see the people that haven't read the books are getting completely different takeaways from that.
It was not clearly explained.
It was not. No.
The women's circle in the Two Rivers is sort of an unofficial village council. There's a formal village council which is all men and officially runs the place. And then there's their wives, who are the women's circle, and they have all the soft power. They basically lean on the village council to make sure that they make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's two halves of the same of a whole, and when they work together, everything runs smoothly. And when they fight against each other, everything goes to pot. It's a huge gender roles is a very big part of Wheel of Time, and it's
that was very noticeable.
The overarching message of Wheel of Time is that when either gender tries to go it alone, things go wrong.
Which is very true.
You know,
egalitarianism.
This happens over and over again. I mean, it starts off with a whole breaking thing. You know, where it's like a whole bunch of male channelers decided that they could destroy Satan. They could defeat the Dark One. So the women said, "That's a stupid idea. We're not going along with this. We're staying home."
Which is why they failed.
So the men ride off on their own.
Which is why they failed.
And almost win. Almost.
But
almost
not quite.
Isn't good enough.
Almost is not good enough, exactly. Yeah. Whereas if the women had been involved as well, maybe they would have succeeded.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing so the ultimate goal is supposedly to defeat the Dark One, but I don't know. We'll see how we go.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But in order to do that, you have to work together.
They need to work together, which means none of that sexism, ladies and gents,
and
because
gents.
you've got different.
There's an awful lot of sexist men in this film.
We've got sexist men and sexist women. There's it's badness on both sides there.
Yeah. But no, for his time, Robert Jordan was a pretty progressive dude.
All good then.
Yeah.
So is Robert Carlyle in this show? Asks Doug. No, not that I know of. That would be cool. He's awesome, but no.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen him in the cast list yet.
But
Robert Carlyle should be in everything.
Well, you may never know until it happens.
Oh, okay. Because the big bad is called the Dark One. And of course, once upon a time, Robert Carlyle plays the Dark One.
Okay.
I see what he's doing there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will say that was one thing that did concern me slightly, and this is it's a minor spoiler, but it's not. I don't think it's.
Tread carefully, young man.
So. So we've now encountered two of the series' long-running big bads. Not big bads, but long-running major antagonists. So so bad guys. They're not big. They're not BBEGs, but they are bad guys, right? And they've both been played by black men.
Okay.
I'm a little worried by this coding. Especially given that
little racist,
especially given that that in the very long run, we're going to end up running into an entire nation of, to put it bluntly, if it's done as it's written in the book, Africans.
Oh dear.
Who are all evil.
That's a tricky one.
I think they're going to change the Sharons.
Hopefully they'll address it later on.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one, especially after, obviously, with the big movement that happened last year. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, there's.
King Kong adaptations have to be careful now, because traditionally King Kong, obviously the natives, they like to take the nice blonde woman and sacrifice her to the big King Kong, and they don't speak any kind of language, and they're rapists and murderers and whatever. You can't do that in modern King Kong adaptations. You can't.
Yeah.
Because it's just not. It spreads racism. It does.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful with this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I thought it was very brave of them to even attempt to make this, because it's got. I mean, there's a number of elements in it that were acceptable
at the time
in the late 80s when he was writing it, that would now be considered very racist. Which most of which I think can be changed. I think those two casting choice, those two particular characters,
that is a bit risque.
They're not actually, their race isn't actually described in the books, so it was the choice of the creators of this series to make them people of color.
It's possible that they did an open casting call, and it just happens to be that those two black gentlemen were particularly well matched to the parts. Or on the other hand, the casting director could have been like, we need an evil looking black dude.
Yeah.
Wahaha. I'm hoping it was the prior rather than the latter.
Yeah. So there's a few bits that could be considered quite racist, and we'll
see where they go with it.
Yeah, there's also the whole gender issue, which this is all, you can't take it out of Game of Wheel of Time. It's gender roles are all through this, and in the current sort of political climate, I think it's very brave.
Again, it's very brave. Yes.
They're going to do their best with it. And
they are stepping on glass.
Yeah, it's like however well you do this, you're going to offend somebody, whether it's somebody on the extreme left or the extreme right.
All television and film at the moment, though. Let's be honest. The internet is full of trolls that are all about, like don't be snowflakes and go woke or go home and all that nonsense. There are so many people that out there like that, and then on the other hand, you've got to try to appeal to new viewers, but also to the book fans. They can't win, really.
Yeah, no, you can't win.
Yeah.
Either way.
But they're going to try. They're making a good effort at it. So let's hope they succeed, because if they don't succeed, then those of us that are new to the franchise are going to be left if it gets cancelled without finishing it.
That's the thing. This is
heaven forbid.
This is a very long-running series, and we really don't want another Firefly on our hands.
Exactly, we really don't want it to be cancelled.
Or almost worse, another Game of Thrones. We don't want them to get 2/3 of the way through and then be like, we're bored of this. We'll just wrap it up, and half-ass it.
Bring the gavel down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game over, folks. Go home.
Now they've started. They've got to do it properly.
Yeah.
And
Hemi, are you here for the long haul?
Probably. Maybe.
You've heard how big a franchise this is, how many books there are. You've heard, John was giving an estimate and saying that he reckons we got like 9 seasons of this. How do you feel about that?
I'm not one for long series normally, especially with those longs. I mean, I read Game of Thrones books, but as a series, I was like, no, thank you. I think it's sometimes daunting how long it is, but to see how the story goes, really, and see if I can keep up with it. Because I'd like to keep up with it, and if I can't keep up with it, I lose interest. Exactly,
yeah. See, this is my concern. I honestly, the way John has been describing it, with all that he's saying about there's thousands of characters and all these books and everything, and I'm, as a newbie, I'm sitting here going, oh no.
I think it depends how you feel about fantasy worlds. Because honestly, if you're reading the books, people either love the books or they get bored, or they get sick of them.
They get bored and they leave it alone.
Yeah, they get sick of them very early on and stop reading, and they get sick of them because of the way the characters are written.
Okay.
Robert Jordan has problems with writing. He's not a good character writer.
But then the person that's writing the TV show is going to be different. Do we have one writer overall, or are there different writers for each episode?
There's one showrunner and several writers, I think.
Okay, so Doctor Who style.
Yes, exactly. But the world building is amazing. This is quite possibly this is certainly the greatest fantasy world since Tolkien. I would match it up with Middle Earth.
I was personally in my head drawing a lot of comparisons to Lord of the Rings. Possibly because lately I've been listening to the complete and unabridged audiobook. So it's kind of at the forefront of my mind. So I was drawing a lot of comparative there.
Well, it is a direct. You can draw a direct comparison. I mean, this is the original inspiration for Wheel of Time was Lord of the Rings. It was Robert Jordan. It was
I can see
Jordan saying, what would my version of Lord of the Rings be like? And it was what he was trying to do was write a Lord of the Rings narrative in a world where gunpowder existed, essentially.
Okay.
So it's moving it forward. It's moving Lord of the Rings forward 1,000 years in technology level.
That I can definitely see that.
Hemi, would you? Are you feeling a desire to read the books yet?
I'm not really,
because you are quite a book reader, aren't you?
Not really, surprisingly.
And you said that you read all of Game of Thrones. I mean, that's quite a
commitment.
Not anymore. I used to be. Not anymore.
Okay, so you used to be quite a reader, but not anymore.
Yeah, no.
See, myself, I do audiobooks. I don't have enough time to read.
Yeah, I just struggle to complete books sometimes. I think I only complete Game of Thrones because I was like, meh, I'm bored.
So you feel like this isn't a series that you would sit down and read.
No,
it's very long.
I mean, you might find that as the series progresses, the sheer depth of the world grabs you. Most of the fans of the books are fans of the books because they're fans of the world. The world building of it. They're fans.
And honestly,
they're fans of just how complex and detailed and complete the world is.
Honestly, listening to the complete and unabridged Lord of the Rings, there are moments where I just want to fall asleep. I just want to turn it off. It is just so long. And there are you can go for like 20 minutes of just talking, and all this backstory, and I'm just not following it, and it's just so difficult. Because boy, did he know how to do, he had this whole world that he wanted to build, and it was a whole big thing. And I'm getting the impression of that it's the same for Wheel of Time, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of repetition in Wheel of Time. There's a lot of braid tugging, a lot of sniffing, a lot of crossing of arms under the breasts.
Okay, I have no idea what any of that means.
This is the repetitive phrases. Whenever he wants to illustrate somebody is annoyed. You haven't met Elaine yet, but whenever she's annoyed, she sniffs.
Okay,
and she sniffs a lot.
It's her tell. Don't ever play poker with her.
Yeah. So and there's this thing where he always describes whenever he always describes women as crossing their arms under their breasts. He never just says crosses their arms.
Okay.
Under their breasts.
Specifically, under the breasts.
Yes.
Not here. Here.
Yes. Exactly. And it's like, Hemi, you've read at least part of Game of Thrones. You know how George R. Martin goes into great detail whenever he's describing food?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Okay.
Oh, yeah. He has...
Clearly, he really likes food.
Long scenes on food porn.
Okay, so that would explain his physical condition, shall we say?
Mm-hmm. And that's not the
he clearly loves food.
Yeah. Well, Robert Jordan does the same thing with dresses.
Okay.
He describes in intricate detail the knot work up the front of the dress and how it buttons from left to right or right to left. And...
That's pretty crazy. That's really crazy.
So don't tell me we're going to get people at home watching the TV show and going, the dress is wrong. I know this because I read the book, and the book specifically said that there was a little thread that went through here, and the little curve here, and...
It's going to be someone.
It's already been done. When the first screenshots started coming out, one of the first comments was that the costumes were wrong.
Tell that to the costume designer!
Well... I think they know.
It's a difficult job.
People were quite
if you think you can do better...
Yeah, people were quite vocal about it.
That's silly. That's just nitpicking, really, isn't it?
I have to say, I quite fancy Rands sheepskin coat.
It was quite nice.
That's quite a nice piece of clothing.
Mm.
I didn't see anything tragically wrong with the the costume, other than the fact that Lan wears his sword across his back, which he should wear it as.
That seems impractical.
I mean, if you're riding on horseback, or if you're in a crowded marketplace or something, I can see why. But he is described in the book specifically as wearing it as his hip.
Yeah.
And
it looks cool this way. I can go.
I mean, that was another thing. That was another thing that annoyed me. The when they fight the Trolloc bursts in on Rand in the very, very first episode, and they're fighting him in the farmhouse, and you see Rand's father pull out the sword for the first time. You know, this is going to be badass, and then he gets his ass kicked.
Yeah,
that should not have happened.
Oh, okay,
because in the books, Tam al'Thor is almost as good a swordsman as Lan.
Huh.
The heron mark on the blade. That
seemed relevant. You could tell from a cinematography point of view that the director has chosen to put emphasis on certain things. When the camera stays on something for a couple of seconds or focuses on one thing rather than another, you know that's going to be important.
Yeah. Well, the heron mark is important.
It does. We got that impression.
Yeah. It's important for a number.
Don't tell us why, though.
Yeah. It's important.
Don't tell us why.
Yeah, it's important for a number of reasons.
Swords across the back are generally impractical anyway.
Dunno.
I've seen a couple of YouTubers point out that you can't really get the mouth all back in.
Well,
no, you can't.
Doug thinks swords on the back is very impractical.
Yeah. Not just me.
It is kind of impractical.
But it looks so cool.
It looks cool, but yeah, you can slash your back open. But yeah, all that does.
Yeah, that whole fight scene should have. I think they could have engineered a way to make Tam look like moderately competent.
Probably.
Maybe kill a couple of Trollocs and then get hit on the head from behind or something. Because he's supposed to. Because he's supposed to be this great swords master.
He's really not. At least not. That's not the impression we got.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite character, Hemi? It was the wolf guy, wasn't it? Yeah, it's the wolf guy for me as well. If that guy had action sequences where he was, having the sword fights and stuff like that, that would have made him. We would have liked him more, I feel like.
It's hard to tell. It's the first three.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is hard to tell.
Yeah.
At the moment, he's just annoying. He does nothing but complain. I want to go home. Did I mention I want to go home?
Rand.
Guys, we need to go home.
I hate to break it to you, but Rand stays irritating throughout the entire series. He goes from whiny to just dumb, but does
he still want to go home?
No.
Okay.
No,
that's his defining trait. I want to go home.
His motivations change drastically.
Okay.
But he remains dumb as a bag of hammers.
Cool.
Hey, that is hammerist! How dare you! I happen to. Some of my closest, oldest friends are hammers, and they are super smart.
Oh god.
Their IQ is as high as 1.
Oh god. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think I broke Hemi.
I'm having a crisis.
They're a little bit blunt.
Yeah.
I broke Hemi.
I'm having a crisis. This is.
Yeah, no. Rand doesn't get any more intelligent, I'm afraid. Though he does meet his match. There is another character later on who is even stupid.
Just as annoying, if not more annoying. Fantastic.
Oh, much more annoying and just as stupid.
We will have
Yay!
to find out.
Good to know. Good to know.
For sure, we'll have to find out.
So I think we'll probably, I've been trying to wrap this up for a while now, but geeks, they will talk. Geeks love talking.
No, introverts. We're introverts.
See, we are introverts until we talk about something geeky, and then it's yap.
And I'm just
I'm
just pretending I'm not introverted.
See, you can. That's the thing with us geeky introverts is we can when we come into groups, and you come together for a purpose, and then the introvertism is that a word? I don't know. The introversy, I don't know. There's probably a word. You know, when you combine it.
With our powers combined,
what he said.
we will natter for ages.
We will natter for ages. Yes, indeedy.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Doug likes to be part of the show, even when he's not part of the show.
I'm the heckler in chief.
Go away!
I need to go to work anyway.
He hasn't even watched the Wheel of Time, so, you know, ignore him. Pay no attention to the Doug behind the curtain.
I'll see you later.
Okay, so we will probably be doing the rest of the episodes. Are you up for that, Heavy?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah. When do the new episodes? Do they come out on Fridays?
Fridays at midnight. So
Fridays at midnight.
We'll probably be doing this in the evenings.
Yes, I would say probably the evenings. Yeah. You know, obviously we'll let people know. We'll do an event and everything. I'm hoping that people will continue to bring in the questions and contribute their own opinions on the show. Mm-hmm. Glasgow, I wonder if we've convinced him to watch the show. He was saying that he's not sure whether he'll watch the show or not.
We'll find out. We will find out.
Yeah. I'm curious.
We've got some volunteers for.
We've got some other people saying they want to come on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, for guest spots. So there'll be more than.
I'm happy to have more people. You know, obviously, I'll be sitting here, you know, asking questions to whoever, as long as they're nice. No meanies. I do not tolerate meanies. Nah, you don't know any meanies, do you, John?
I know a few, but I wouldn't introduce them to you.
Oh dear.
I say.
So, thank you for watching. Until next time. So we have been the Geeketeers. I have been your hostess Illisia, and we have been Brains with Brawn that way, Brains with Brawn that way, and Hemi that way. So hopefully we'll see you next time, and hopefully you enjoyed the show as much as we did. It was pretty darn awesome, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah,
guys, girls, everybody.
It was decent. It was decent.
It was decent. It was a 7.5 from both of them.
Yes.
Both of them gave it a 7.5, which is a rather good score, I think. So we'll see if it manages to keep up that score, or whether it goes higher or lower. So tune in with us next week, next Friday probably, to see whether that rating goes up or goes down.
Adios.
So take care, and until next time, remember, you geek, therefore you are, my darlings. Bye.
Adios.
Bye.